Game over. It is game over.
Game over, cancer. I'm Val Solomon, Director of Program Impact at Cannonball Kids Cancer Foundation.
And I'm Dana Nichols, Executive Director of CKC.
Game Over, Cancer, a podcast dedicated to exploring conversations about pediatric cancer research, solutions, and inspiring family stories.
We're a nonprofit dedicated to creating innovative treatment options for kids fighting cancer and educating for change.
By creating a space for these conversations, we empower the community to take action and provide tangible hope.
Game over, cancer. Screw you, cancer.
So today's episode is all about finding your dream job and reconciling that with the actual reality of work.
They're not the same?
No, they're not. You peel back the curtain and see how an event actually happens.
Never is good.
It's rough.
Well, we're really excited because Kylie, one of our team CKC, is in here chatting about her job with us, special events manager.
Mm-hmm.
Kylie actually started as a volunteer, and in honor of her, because both she and I are big Bravo fans and especially Roni fans, there's this like folklorish story of Bethany Frankel that always reminds me of getting to know Kylie as a volunteer. So have you ever seen any Roni?
Some long time ago.
Okay.
I am not your target audience for this story, but I'm here for it. I'm here
You
for you.
out there. Yeah. So Bethany Frankel, everyone I feel like knows her, but she's an original Roni member.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of her books, because I've read them all,
Mm-hmm.
she talks about meeting her original assistant, Julie, who really came on and helped with her Skinny Girl brand.
Mm-hmm.
And when she meets Julie, Julie's like chopping up carrots in a kitchen in the Hamptons at some event. And the
As
point,
you do.
as you do. But the point is that it's not about this idea of this job interview and going and nailing a job interview, that every interaction we have with people shows who we are and the character of who we are. And when she saw Julie, she was like, oh, you should come work with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any carrots for you to chop. I need you to help me run this business and scale this business, which is all to say that's exactly how I felt meeting Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to volunteer. She was looking for a little bit more, fulfillment with what she was doing outside of her career or even in her career, but just in her day-to-day. And you'll hear that the first thing she wound up doing for us was packing our boxes to help us move, which was, we're so happy. Thank you still. And now she gets to benefit by being in the office and move too. We love. But her work ethic, her curiosity, her intentionality, everything she did, whether she was packing those boxes or coming back as a committee member, really matched our mission, our work ethos. And I knew that the actual how to run an event nonprofit part could be taught if she was willing to learn, because I had seen her in her environment and just who she was and brought that to every single thing she did. And so from there, we made a big decision to just speed up our hiring process months before we were going to bring on a special events manager, because we wanted it to be her.
And we needed the help, to be honest.
We needed the help long before.
Like years ago. And it all kind of fit together beautifully.
But that's part of the nonprofit thing too.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you're waiting to hire a position until you're like beyond aching.
Mm-hmm.
And we sometimes feel like we have to do that to prove that we really need a position. And that's a bad habit.
Yeah, no,
but it is where we find ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And because of it, we have one of the best quotes from an employee that I think we've ever had, which is, quote, "This isn't as much fun as being on the committee," which I want to put on like a coffee mug or shirts. We should have really worn T-shirts that said that today for
Kylie. One thing about Kylie that we just learned last week is also she would not wear that shirt because she does not wear shirts with words on it.
With words on them.
She has a lot of hot takes, and maybe one day we can have a hot takes episode with Kylie. But until then, we're going to talk all about CKC, our events, and her coming on board and her perception of changing that dream into a reality and it being better and way more fun.
Absolutely. Enjoy.
It's another Team CKC episode today. Yay! We have our wonderful special events manager coming in to chat with us. She's our newest employee to CKC. It's been just about a year since she came on. First came on as volunteer and crossed over to the dark side. No, crossed over.
No, seriously. It's a crossover that hardly happens successfully, I guess. I think it happens a lot in nonprofit, but doesn't always happen successfully.
And it is successfully working right now. We are delighted. She is our special events manager, and we are so thrilled to have her here with us. Please welcome Kylie Briggs.
Hi.
Yay.
We forgot personality hire, but there's
personality hire, guys.
As I've said, there's not room in the budget for personality only. So I think that's just an extra benefit that came on the add-ons. So we appreciate your personality and your level of taste you bring to everything we do.
Yeah. Tell the folks a little bit more about what she's just done, because we just had our Gold Gala for 2024 in the last week.
It was so beautiful.
And it was so beautiful. And so as the events coordinator, Kylie is our staff, point person for all the logistics, all the volunteer committee work and all of that. And it was just beautiful.
It was so gorgeous. And I think that's what, with the special events position, you're working through our gala, which is huge, is so much work, which we're going to get into, is more work than anyone realizes on the outside. We have a luncheon in September. We do a clay shoot, and then we do a ton of one-offs where we're the beneficiary and juggling just a lot of different things. But the gala was so elegant and beautiful. And when we walked in the room, we thought, oh, this looks like Kylie. It was beautiful. And
that was the goal.
That part's fun, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, I can, dream up this piece of what it's going to look like. And so it was really, really beautiful and just a wonderful event overall. Mm-hmm. So we're coming off your first gala.
Yeah.
But what initially connected you to CKC, even as a volunteer? How do we get?
Like the very start?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I had been following Melissa Wiggins for quite some time. And then I had a super remote job and just wanted to do something extra. Like I've always loved kids, wanted to give back, loved volunteering. And I went to the CKC website and I was struck by all the statistics that were on the website that in the last 40 years, there's only 4 drugs administered. And I remember sending it to my friends, just like, how is that possible? Just crying. And then just wanted to met Dana Halloween of 2022 and just hit it off right away. And she's like, you can, this could take you could be a board chair, you could do this. And I was like, oh my God, I could do all these cool things. And I was just so excited and first volunteered by packing up the old office, which
you could do all these things. Pack our office.
Right before we were getting ready to move our office. So we had an office space that was being donated to us, saved us so much money throughout COVID.
Yeah.
And so that was amazing. And so we were getting ready to move to a more centrally located office for our staff, but also a little bit closer to where our donors, our events happen, things like that. And with a staff of 3 at the time, and 3.5. We were looking around how do we get all of this done and move, and we weren't sure how it was going to happen. And so
at year end, because it was November, December, which is a huge fundraising time for everyone. Yeah.
So
and enter
Kylie.
At a
pivotal moment.
It was so nice. She did a great job packing us up, and everything was organized and meticulous, and had these notes of what was in the boxes or what we were missing, those kinds of stuff. And I think we clicked from the very beginning, but then you were able to join the gala committee and show that you could do more than just pack boxes. Though we are forever indebted to that, helping us move.
But so joined gala committee, and that was just such a beautiful event, and being part of it and just really seeing what CKC does, I think was really eye-opening. And then at gala, Dana invited me to go on the Ripple committee. So I was just committee hopping at that point. And then I think 2 weeks later, Dana and I went to lunch, and she's like, we have this role we created. Do you want it? And I was like, this isn't real. And I remember driving them like, don't get your hopes up. This isn't it's not always going to work out and da-da-da-da. And then I was like, wait. And I called my parents and I was like, guess guess what? And my mom's like, did you say yes? And I was like, yeah.
Did it feel like a proposal? Because that's how it sounds.
She said
now,
yes
right?
to the
She
dress.
said
yes. Yeah. We were also matching, so it just was very in sync.
Yeah.
I do like when team accidental matching happens. To me, that means mentally we're like really on a good page. So that was nice. We had hoped that in 2024, we would, like, part of my plan was that we would add this special events position. When we met you and worked with you for a bit, I was like, oh, she's the girl. And so, like, to me, I was really concerned that if we waited 6 months, if you were looking for a job or if something else came about, that we were going to miss out on someone who really synced with what we did. So we did take a leap to, like, add the position much earlier. The board was supportive in that, which is really, really helpful to us. And I think it was great because then you were able to come on and do a couple of the events. Part of what's so hard in this type of position, or just in our roles in general, is you have this full cycle of a year before you really even see the full job. And so it was perfect timing. And we were just really grateful that it worked out, because when I said, hey, what are you looking for a job? I really think you'd be a fit here.
Yeah.
You were very open to it. But then you weren't working in nonprofit and you hadn't before.
No.
So what I think it would be interesting is to chat through, like, why you wanted to work through nonprofit, or what was making you think this was a good career shift for you.
Yeah. So right out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I had a friend who was at UCF, part of Nighthon, which is UCF's largest dance marathon. And I worked at Starbucks at the time. So we did a lot of volunteering at Nighthon and just kind of like really seeing these families and everything. And that Christmas, I volunteered at Arnold Palmer for Mix 105.1's Radiothon and got to really meet families and heard heartbreaking stories and got to meet these kids. And I was like, I know this is where I meant to be, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. So it was just like, I knew it was there, but I was like, I don't know how to like fully get there. So just kind of in and out of classes, and really loved sociology and like social problems and like all these big things. And then I wanted to do like 50 other things. So it's like there was nothing that really set. So I was like, it's fine. I'll just volunteer, and just kind of did things here and there. And then met CKC, and here I am.
And she said yes.
So tell us a little bit about like how you see your position and your job, and what really lights you up about what we're doing and what you're doing.
Yeah. So I feel like I have the fun part of the job. I get to do all the events and make them pretty. But I think also just feeling really involved in CKC and the mission and all that. I think coming on last summer and immediately going to Atlanta to meet some of our families and just really seeing like what we do firsthand, I was like, this is where I meant to be, like feeling that connection. And the fact that I can build an event that's now going to go to Atlanta and like help that community, I think that's just really rewarding.
I'm so glad we're talking about this, because like when we're talking about bringing somebody from a volunteer position into the role, but also someone who's not worked in nonprofit before, I think that Atlanta trip for us was kind of, let's see if she's going to be able long-term to work in nonprofit, and not in like a bad way, but just there's a lot of resiliency you have to build yourself up with when you are meeting families or children in particular that are benefiting from your services that you're offering, or like the investment that we do in pediatric cancer research. And so for us, it was kind of like let's make sure she knows this isn't going to be her full job all the time, but that let's just see how also she fares, because it is kind of a crash course in dealing with difficult problems basically every day.
And I think it was like a great through point, like being at Gala, being part of Ripple, being in these meetings. And then it's like, oh, now I'm meeting the family that this directly like impacts.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was really beautiful just to see it all come together, rather than like, oh, I'm just volunteering with this big event and I'm doing this and that. And then it's like, oh, wait, this is actually what that all goes to.
Mm-hmm.
I remember before we left talking a little bit about like, this is a pretty hard trip. It's pretty exhausting. And like using words like that, we were going to tour one of our hospital sites and meet with one of our researchers. We're going to meet with a family who was going, or two families who were going to be the focus of our year-end campaign fundraising appeal. And then we're going to Augusta to see our first research site and long-running researcher, Dr. Johnson, and kind of bid him farewell as he was easing out. So it was really packed as a trip. And I kept saying that, but I can't imagine it was easy to understand what I was talking about. So I wondered, what was your perception of that once we took the trip versus before we went?
I remember you kept saying that, and I was like, oh, yeah. And then just hearing one of the moms, Quenisha, talk, I just remember like sitting on the floor, like crying, like, oh. And I'm like, but also like, this is nothing. Like, you lived through this. Like, that is so much more. And then you guys have always been so great of like, okay, let's like decompress after. Let's talk about it. Do what you need. And I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, yeah, that was sad. But like, and I think I just kind of was like, oh, yeah, that was sad. And then like a few days passed. I was like, oh, yeah, that was really sad. And I think like being back in the office, I was like, wait, that all just happened. And like that was hard, and just like really digesting like the family stories and like the researchers. And I was just like, oh, this is so much bigger than I think anyone really even knows.
And I would imagine, although I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think in talking with you since then, the stress that we can put on ourselves to honor what we just learned, right?
Yeah.
So now I have to go back, and my job now is to work with this committee and have this event go forward so we can raise money to help with that scenario. And how do I do that? And how do I not get stuck knowing the weight of what it is that I am doing now that I understand what's happening?
And I think like for that, like I always go back to that point with John Wesley and Jax is like, we just like heard their mom's stories, but then it's like we're having dance parties in the kitchen.
Oh my God, the dance party in the kitchen.
And it's like, I think about that constantly, like even on the really bad days, because I'm like, there's still a kid. And like, that's the biggest thing is like, even when I was volunteering with Nighthon, it's like, you can stand for 26 hours because that's nothing for a child, like spending their childhood in cancer. So it's like, or hospital treatment. So it's like to see kids just like dancing and being kids and jumping on the couch and like running around a house and like being kids. I was like, that's what this really is.
Yeah. You want everybody to have that experience.
Yeah. I think what's fascinating is we can walk so full-heartedly into a world we're not used to and see this heartbreaking story that has some hope, has some resiliency. And then we still, I think, and we talk about this a lot, is like, and that's their family story. They're living that story. And my family story is I get up and I go do this job. And that it's okay. It's not for everyone. But that there is this part where you have to be able to say, that's what they're dealing with and this is my piece in it. And not because anything, but they're going through this and you're not. And your job is to keep moving the fight forward. And that's really hard sometimes because it's sad and we're empathetic people and you have a huge heart and we all do if we're in this field for this long. So what have you found are ways that you can kind of compartmentalize or keep moving it forward that has kept you here now?
Like I was saying earlier, like you guys have always been really great and open of like, hey, when like you're having really hard times, like talk to us about it if like you feel comfortable. And I think that has been a really big thing, even like if it's just like a, hey, like what is this type of cancer? And just like you guys have always shown that. And but also just like knowing there's happy moments. And I have like 2 little nephews that I'm like, I couldn't imagine something happening to them, but like also knowing that like I get to see them and just like really separating like the work-life balance, I think has been just a really big help rather than like taking it home every single day.
And let's not forget flight of cobblers.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
While taking a nap and Dana and like, you want dessert?
Yeah. We had to order a flight of, well, it was one flight of different cobblers and then one flight of banana puddings because we're in Georgia.
Yes.
Southern.
Yes.
So sweet
after
treats.
heavy topics that have been discussed and you feel like, gosh, I might be a little bit stuck, I go for a nap and then magically when I come back out, there's desserts that happen and love it.
But also, there was like this whole buildup, like Dana said, like this is going to be really hard. But also, there's this cake place, and we're going to get desserts, and we're going to do this. And I think we had been there for 2 days, and in my head, I'm like, where are the desserts, guys? Like,
right.
And then when we got to Augusta, we got the amazing cake.
Boll Weevil and Augusta.
Weevil.
Yes.
So here's your fact check of the moment, which is the cakes were in Augusta. We were in Atlanta for 2 days first. And when you go to Augusta, you have to go to Boll Weevil and get the cakes. I mean, there's a restaurant there. I've never eaten there, but the cake is unparalleled.
Always stop and get the cake.
Yes, 100%. We made good on it. It just was further in the trip.
I feel like we always have some treat at the office too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's always something to help.
Absolutely. I would love to talk a little bit. Well, I think we just are coming off gala. You did a beautiful job. We all had a beautiful gala. But there was a point where you said, oh, this is not as fun as when I was on the committee.
As volunteering on the committee.
So I'm not saying that was your moment, but what was your, oh, wow, this is different moment than going from a volunteer to an employee?
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like the 2 weeks right before where I had my breakdown of like, this is not the same as just volunteering, showing up when I want to show up, doing like bare minimum. Yeah, very different. I think just knowing like there's a script and a run of show and this and that. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, I'm so stressed. And she's like, why all the food's ordered? And I was like, I have to make a run of sugar. And she goes, what is that? I was like, exactly. Don't act like you know what we're doing. So yeah, I think all the small logistics were definitely like an adjustment, especially going from Ripple and Sarah's Sporting Clays Against Cancer to Gold Gala. Logistics are just different with every event. There are the consistent ones, but Gala is just its own monster. And I was like, this is not just you wear a pretty dress and you go.
Yeah. And for anyone who's been to a gala, just know that if something happened at the right time on the stage, that is months of crafting by people behind the scenes. And that's kind of like the detail that you got immersed in this time.
I think in general, anytime you're at any event or you're anywhere in the world and it seems easy and effortless and you're really enjoying your experience, then you know countless hours and moments have gone into prep and planning. And we all walk through life and just like get to enjoy certain things at a restaurant or wherever that is. And then when you peek behind the curtain, you're like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Oh, this is a curated experience I'm a part of.
I remember like standing next to you, Joe Gervin, our amazing MC and auctioneer, is like, and have a good night. And Dana's clapping. And in my head, I'm like, it's over. I just spent months and it just ended like that. And that was like I was like, but the script and this and that. And like, it's at the end now. And like, it was such a weird, like.
It only lives on our Google Drive now.
And I was like, so now I just go to the next event? Like, it was a weird whole mind process.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite parts of Gala?
Oh, my.
I mean, it did end, and we love that.
I mean, I don't know if it's because they were my first family I really met, but the John Wesley video with Tanya Gruber and all of them, I think just seeing that, and no matter how many times we've all watched it, but also just like watching like a different crowd watch it. Like I remember sharing it with the gala committee and like they cried and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, and then just seeing everyone else, I'm like, wow, this is very impactful. And like this really hits home to so many families. And I think that was just the best part of like really experiencing that with a group of people.
Yeah, I think one thing that we click on very much is that we're having a beautiful event where we raise money. And the most important thing we can do is tell the story of our mission, tell the stories of our families so that people really understand how they and why they need to be part of this cause. And so I think it actually is incredibly full circle when we're talking about it in that way. For you, the Atlanta family, one of them, the Duncan Anderson family, Quenisha, who you're saying, her son, John Wesley, wound up being named, or a clinical trial wound up being named in his honor. And we wound up, Val and I, getting to go out in March to Stanford with their family to meet Dr. Gruber, the researcher being funded. And we were so lucky that we got to capture the whole day, get it all filmed. And that's what we turned into the fundraising and appeal for the night. But it was a really beautiful story. We have Dr. Gruber in another episode talking about her incredible work. But I think when we're able to bring all the pieces together, that's where we feel like we shine. And then when you see that in a room of 250 people and they're connected because of it, it feels really powerful. And it feels like we're on the right path to making sure people understand our mission.
Yeah. And we have almost an impossible task in that room in the evening, right? Which is to make everybody feel, 250 people all feel engaged in their own way. And they all have their own story and their own background when they're coming in, but they all feel like they can do something to help cure cancer.
Right.
And they feel like I got glammed up and I'm having fun and this is a beautiful place and the food is delicious. And all of these things have to happen all at the same time. And it's incredibly difficult to do it and execute it well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you think, a year in, an expert in transitioning your career to nonprofit management, what would you say to people who are listening that want to get into this career path? What's your advice? Go.
Oh, gosh. I think just know what you really want and just be willing to pack boxes. Like, I think just any little thing and just like have courage, know what you really want and just keep following through with that.
Along those lines, is there anything big you've learned that you really are like, okay, I'm taking this into the next year with me?
Just that I really like it here. And I know you're always like, hey. But I think it has been such a transition in terms of like career. And that was like a nice little like, whoa, like this isn't what I'm used to. But I think just like knowing like I'm where I'm meant to be. And I hope this takes me even further. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have a couple other events coming up this year. Where can people find out more about those?
So on our Cannonball Kids Cancer.org website under events, we have our Ripple Effect Luncheon. That will be September 5th at the Winter Park Event Center. And then we have Sarah Sporting Clays Against Cancer, October 25th at OK Carl Gun Club. So all information is there. It takes you directly to the event website. So we'll see you all there.
And tickets are open. Registration's open. We need sponsors to help make sure the day goes off without a hitch. And if there's any questions, you can also contact Kylie. She's more than happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Send her an email.
Yeah. So if you're ready to be a part of Team CKC and join us in Educating for Change, please share, like, and subscribe.
And thanks for tuning in. We know it takes a lot to face this topic head on, but we appreciate you joining us and committing to be part of our fight. I'm Dana Nichols.
And I'm Val Solomon.
Until next time.
Bye. Join us as we transform fear into courage and turn adversity into opportunities for change.
If you want to be involved in the conversations that create change in the world of pediatric cancer, take a moment, share, like, and subscribe.